Hi, my name is MJ, and I watch a lot of movies, and this is my first real video ever sharing how I feel about them online. We're a couple weeks deep into 2025, so it's as good a time as ever to start posting. The first official new films of the year opened on Friday, January 10th, and most of them are actually from 2024, which are just now getting wide releases, with the only major new thing for 2025 being Den of Thieves 2. But before we dive into what the new year is bringing us, I thought I should start off by looking back real quick on 2024 and how weird it felt as far as my movie going life is concerned. Just to set the scene, give us a frame of reference for going into 2025. Call it a State of the Cinema address if you want. Now, I didn't see everything that came out last year. In fact, I missed out on quite a few things in theaters, and I haven't had a chance to watch too much of what I missed at home. But even if I did catch everything, I don't think it's necessarily the movies themselves that felt weird about 2024. Most of what I saw was pretty great. I went to the theaters roughly 30 times. Dune Part 2, The Wild Robot, Twisters, Conclave, Transformers 1, Furiosa, Challengers. That's all fantastic stuff. And I heard a lot of good things about the horror genre. Horror was popping off last year. Everyone was going crazy for stuff like Immaculate, Longlegs, Cuckoo, Smile 2, Nosferatu, which I did see and I love that. The Substance, which has gotten loads of attention from award circuits, and I saw the TV Glow, which every queer person I know loved. I mean, more than they loved other horror films. It was a banner year for the genre. On the flip side, it was probably the single worst year for comic adaptations in recent memory. I'm not too big into superheroes most of the time, but I tend to enjoy their movies more often than not. That was not the case in 2024. Like, my god, Sony's Marvel stuff was awful. Madam Web was probably the greatest thing I've seen in my life for all the unintended reasons. Venom 3 was probably the biggest disappointment of the year, especially coming off how much I loved Venom 2, and Kraven the Hunter, it existed, which is about all I can say for that one. I didn't see Joker 2 because I didn't like the original from 2019, and nothing I heard was good or interestingly bad enough for me to pay money for. I love how Sony's films were the forefront of the genre last year, though. It's just so funny because you know that most average audiences don't know the difference between Disney's Marvel Cinematic Universe and Sony's bullshit Spider-Man villain spin-offs. To most people, they're all the same deal, all Marvel movies. And now I wonder how much damage they've caused and when we might see the effects of that. Not that it was all hopeless, because Disney put out Deadpool and Wolverine, and it made $1 billion fucking dollars, and a lot of people liked it. I have my gripes about a few things, but it was good enough. It is technically an MCU installment, except not really, because it's built entirely off all the movies that 20th Century Fox or New Line had established 20 years ago. So really, mainline MCU had no play in 2024. That's hilarious. Overall, I did feel slightly out of touch with what most audiences were going for. Like, I do not understand how Wicked Part 1 is getting so much love. I thought it was sort of okay-ish when I first saw it. I liked the lead actresses, but like, the more I see people fawning over it, the more I see the industry put it on a pedestal and ignore so many other legit great films, the more likely it gets to being nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars. The more I come to hate it. The hype for Wicked is fucking insane to me, and I hate it. It makes no sense. Same with Moana 2 and Kung Fu Panda 4 being so successful, even if not critically so. Despicable Me 4 makes sense because, obviously, But the other things, no. Maybe being out of touch is what led me to feeling weird about 2024 as a whole. Despite so many good things coming out, despite how much I enjoyed what I saw, something just didn't feel right. This feeling was lurking just below the surface of everything, and the vibes were so off. And again, it's not the films themselves, not entirely. I think what threw me off was the distribution being so messed up. These problems started with the pandemic and the lockdowns of 2020 when theaters had to close, and they've only compounded and gotten worse as time goes on. And the strikes of 2023 certainly didn't help things. Because of the pandemic fucking everything up, you'll see more movies go from theaters to being able to rent them on streaming sites in about a month or less. It made sense during the height of the lockdowns, but it doesn't fly 3 or 4 years later. Unless the movie is making heaps of money immediately, the studios get scared, they yank it from the cinema screenings and dump it online, not even giving it a chance to build an audience. And this has basically trained audiences to not bother seeing half the shit that comes out because they know it'll be available to rent in like a couple weeks. Then you got those sons of bitches from Apple TV who were set up to put out Wolves, starring Brad Pitt and George Clooney, that was supposed to have a nationwide release, but just a few weeks before its debut, they yoinked it entirely. Limited screenings in so few theaters across the country, none of which were in Illinois, at least not outside Chicago, I don't think. And they did that just to put it directly on Apple TV Plus. I saw the trailer for it several times in theaters. I was ready, willing, and able to make a night for it. Well, fuck that, I guess. I could watch it right now or anytime I want, really, but I'm so filled with spite that I haven't yet. And that's not to mention the stuff that should be playing in theaters that streaming sites refuse to lend out from the beginning. Amazon is the biggest offender here, specifically The Idea of You with Anne Hathaway and Ricky Stenicki that had John Cena in it. People would love to see a romantic drama like The Idea of You. They would love to see a comedy like Ricky Stenicki. But no, let it be lost in the unyielding sea of content for streaming platforms. So if everything's going to streaming sites so quickly, what's even playing in theaters half the time? Well, it's 20 screenings of the most popular things at the moment, along with 2 or 3 screenings of everything else, playing at the most inconvenient times if you have a day job, like me. Even worse, when they finally show the stuff from film festivals that I'm dying to see, and it's so limited, it might as well not be playing. Like, why did Anora, one of the most loved dramas of the year, only have one showtime at 9:50 p.m.? Like, come on, I'm usually in bed by then. I have work the next day. And you gotta love all the random shit that nobody's heard of just spawning out of nowhere, only to disappear after a week. And they all make about $3 at the worldwide box office, too. That's not a new thing, really. Small-time films have always been coming out. It just feels like it's happening more often these days, and more extremely. You didn't know that Frank Grillo was in a movie about werewolves, and it was called Werewolves. But I did. I saw it completely alone, nobody else in the theater. And it dawned on me that werewolves and stuff like it aren't typically meant to have big theatrical windows. They're meant to go straight to streaming or Blu-ray. But because theaters are desperate to have something showing, they choose those things. And why are theaters so desperate nowadays? Well, it's not just the smaller runs for major films. I believe it's mainly because of the writers and actors strikes of 2023. They lasted for months, and they caused the delays of so many projects and planned release schedules. Everything got thrown off. Most people thought the worst of it was Dune Part 2 getting delayed from December 2023 to March of 2024. But that was just the tip. We really started feeling the effects of it not long after Dune. That's why there were so many weekends where practically nothing worthwhile actually came out. That's why we had so many re-releases happening, like with the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy. That's why Werewolves was shown on the big screen. I don't know why I keep using werewolves as my example, but whatever. You get the point. I would love to say the strikes were for a good cause, but just recently, so many actors and filmmakers have flipped and embraced generative AI, which has rendered half the reason the strikes happened to begin with fucking pointless. Yeah, thanks. Thanks, guys. Just thank you. Thank you for everything. That's the movie going world we lived in for 2024, and that's the state of shit that 2025 is starting with. The problems didn't begin last year, but they sure became more obvious, at least to me. Maybe we'll recover. Maybe enough time has passed from the strikes that we might equalize again. Or maybe it'll just get worse. Who the fuck knows? We'll deal with it as it comes. What I've said is just the bare bones, surface level observations about the current problems with the industry and film distribution. There's a more complex discussion to be had among people way more qualified than I am. The vibe for 2024 was weird, even a tad bleak, but not so entirely hopeless. That's all I wanted to say about that for now. So, let's move on. Let's look forward to 2025 and all it has to offer, at least in the first weekend of January. As I said, most of the new films are things from 2024 that we're just now lucky enough to get on a wide release. At least at my local theater somewhere in Illinois, we finally got Better Man, the musical biopic about British superstar Robbie Williams, in which he is depicted as a CGI monkey, along with Flow, which comes to us from Latvia and just won the Golden Globe for Best Animated Film. It's probably why we got it. And of course, the only actual new movie for 2025 so far, Den of Thieves 2, Pantera. Let's start with Better Man. It's about the life of Robbie Williams, formerly of a 90s British boy band called Take That. And then he branched out into a solo career and became one of the biggest celebrities in the world. Like, this guy is Justin Timberlake level. That is, everywhere except for America. At first, I thought I was the only one who never heard of him. I never even heard his music in passing. I don't follow music stars, and I don't really listen to pop or anything mainstream. Like, not to sound like a hipster, but lyrical songs are just not something I'm into. It's normal for me to just not know who certain singers are. But as it turns out, a lot of people in America don't know who this guy is. For some reason, he's the one British import musician that never caught on. I guess by the time he started taking off going solo, America was like, hey, we have Austin Powers. That's enough British people for one pop culture right now. So, yeah, it was wild to only learn about this guy recently, when this biopic started making waves, that is, and then face that I associate the name with is a fucking monkey. It's the main thing this movie has going for it. It certainly stands out from the others, that's for sure. He doesn't look like an actual chimpanzee is the thing. He looks as though he's been designed by a person who has never seen a real chimp before, but has watched the recent Planet of the Apes movies. That's just what he looks like. Him being a monkey is just how Robbie Williams sees himself. That's the explanation here. He's not actually a monkey in universe. That would be amazing, but that's not the case. Nobody comments on it. It's purely an artistic choice. If it was just some guy or some celebrity playing Robbie Williams, it wouldn't be any different than any other biopic about a musician. It would blend in with that Freddie Mercury thing from a few years back, the Elton John one, the Bob Dylan thing with Timothée Chalamet. They're all generic biopics about singers. They follow the same formulas. They feel the same. They're all advertised the same. That they twist the truth of the story in ways that are stupid and bad. And really, I don't give a shit. Oh, they wanted to make music, but everyone was like, you'll never make it. Give up. They did drugs or something. The fame got to their heads. They had conflicts with their producers, romantic problems. What the fuck ever. But now, Better Man has a monkey doing all this? A monkey with imposter syndrome so intense that he has visions of past versions of himself that fucking hate him? A monkey in a boy band, a monkey singing and dancing, a monkey having domestic spats with his famous girlfriend after she got an abortion, a monkey doing more drugs than any other movie character I've ever seen. I think we got something here. This, plus that Pharrell Williams biopic done with Legos, it seems we've finally cracked the code. If you want me to at least be interested in your generic biopic, then make it bizarre. It doesn't sound like it should work, but Robbie Williams being a monkey makes this whole thing worth it. Nothing about the structure is actually changed, but presentation is everything. I cared a lot more about monkey Robbie Williams than I would have a human. The visual effects are absolutely fucking stellar, and they don't take away from the performance or the emotional impacts of the story. If anything, it's heightened. With everything else, I'm distracted by the big name celebrity they have playing the other celebrity. Like, I'm sure the trials and tribulations of Bob Dylan are a great story to tell, but all I'm doing is watching Timothée Chalamet play for an Oscar nomination. With Better Man, there is no pretense, only monkey. And who doesn't like a monkey? I do, and I feel bad for this monkey. He does so many drugs, drinks so much alcohol. It's fucking sad. It really goes hard into his struggle with substance abuse and addiction more than I thought it would. It also shows him as a cocky piece of shit jackass a lot of the time, which he fully admits he was. The fame got to him, and at the same time, it was mentally torturing the guy. It's really hard to watch sometimes, but I was way more invested here than I would have been with any other musician biopic. I went into this not knowing a damn thing about Robbie Williams, and I came out feeling like I learned so much. Not facts and details, really. I'm sure it's not 1,000% accurate anyway. But you get a look at how he at least sees himself in all the key moments of his life. It's a glimpse at his psyche. It's also a damn good musical, with numbers that are so wonderfully staged and visually captivating, going into surreal imagery and really making you feel what he's going through. It's a better fucking musical than Wicked Part 1, I'll say that, in every conceivable way. It makes you wonder why everyone's going nuts for Wicked when this is a real musical. This is a really good musical. Maybe it's a bit long, though. Not as long as Wicked Part 1, but definitely near the end of Better Man. I was kind of hoping it would just wrap up already. But that's the only gripe I have. Better Man was a pleasant surprise, and I'm really glad my theater got it. Though it doesn't seem to be performing that well at the box office. It's made less than $10 million worldwide as of posting this, and its reported budget was over $100 million. I expected it to be pretty under the radar in the US, but it's not even that big a hit in the UK, where the dude's from. Fucking weird, but that's just how it is. Alright, next up is the Latvian animated movie Flow. It was made entirely with Blender, which is insane, and it follows a small group of different animals during a massive flood that submerges their homes. Our main character is a black cat, and its newfound friends are a dog, a capybara, a lemur, and a secretary bird. They all manage to get on a little sailboat and are trying to make their way to these mysterious giant stone pillars on the horizon, navigating through half-sunken cities and trying to survive the journey. There's no humans, no dialogue, just the animals, the music, and the absolutely beautiful artistry that went into animating it. Though nobody speaks, you can tell exactly what they're saying and feeling through their body language and unique forms of expression. None of them are anthropomorphized, so it's impressive how they felt authentic to how the real animals would behave and move, while still giving them distinct personalities and character arcs. This is a perfect example of visual storytelling. It's also intensely emotional. Like, after leaving the theater, I really wanted to cry. This journey sent me through so many different feelings in less than 90 minutes. Obviously, it's really cute, but I was also in awe of just how pretty it was. And I actually got stressed the fuck out during the more perilous scenes. And there's something about this world where humans clearly once existed but are mysteriously no longer present, and it's deeply unsettling. Like, where did they go? It's never explained if the area was just abandoned or if this is post-apocalyptic. It just feels oof. And there's one scene in particular that I had no idea what to feel. I mean, I was feeling a lot of things, but I have no idea what the intended feeling was. At least I don't think I do. Something so unexpected happens, but not in a weird way. It was gorgeously animated and sad and just not what I thought would happen. I'm still struggling to find the words for it. Not just for that scene, but for the whole movie. And by the end, I think Flow has actually become one of my favorite movies of 2024. It's at least a strong contender for the number one spot, I think. I knew I would like it, though I wasn't expecting to love it. Just wow. Goddamn. I'm surprised the Golden Globes actually recognized this one as the best animated film of 2024. Like, they didn't just let Disney buy the award this year. Their voters actually made a conscious choice, and because of that, the movie is actually getting a decent theatrical window in America. Thank God. The last movie I'll talk about is Den of Thieves 2, Pantera, the first true new film of 2025. Ah yes, the people were clamoring. Of all things to get a sequel, I wasn't expecting to see one for a crime thriller that came out 7 years ago. Like, fucking okay, sure, I guess. The original Den of Thieves came out in 2018 and was moderately successful for a January movie. It starred O'Shea Jackson Jr., Gerard Butler, and 50 Cent, among others, and I thought it was pretty okay. I won't get too into it here, but to summarize my thoughts on the first, it's not that bad, though a bit too macho for my liking. I mean, every single character was comically hyper-masculine to an insane degree. All ex-Marine tough guys with those kinds of beards, tattoos all over them. Everyone looks like they abuse their wives, and there's hardly any women in the entire film. The only normal character in the whole movie was O'Shea Jackson Jr. Gerard Butler was having a blast, though. He was having one-sided homoerotic banter with everyone else, and it was kinda hilarious. There's a bit where he's talking to O'Shea Jackson Jr., and he says, "God, I'd fuck you." Kidding. Like, what the hell was that? All the gay shit he says is always followed up by no homo. I will say the heist was pretty neat, and I like the twist ending. All around a serviceable crime film that will do you better than most, especially for January 2018. Now here comes Den of Thieves 2, once again starring O'Shea Jackson Jr. and Gerard Butler 7 years later. In between movies, O'Shea Jackson Jr.'s character Donnie has been running elaborate heists with his crew and thieving all over the world. Gerard Butler's character Nick, an LA County sheriff, hasn't gotten over what happened in the first movie, so he tracks Donnie down to France, barging into his operation to break into the World Diamond Center. As the marketing suggests, the cop goes gangster. and Nick joins Donnie's crew for their heist because he's sad and divorced and broke. Weirdly enough, I enjoyed the sequel way more than the first. It's kind of a different beast. Like, there's women here for once, and they're part of the main story. I never thought I would see the day. It's also not as gritty, not hyper macho. Everyone is written and acted like characters for once. Nothing that'll blow your mind or anything. There's no major surprises here, but just comparing it to the original is sorta night and day. And it becomes an unexpected buddy comedy for a bit, where Gerard Butler is trying to blend in with the criminals, and he is so out of his element. Like, Donnie is a mastermind. He speaks multiple languages, puts on these silly accents, he follows backstories for all the different fake identities he goes under, has all these connections, like, he's a criminal mastermind. Meanwhile, Nick is just an LA cop. He speaks only English, he has no idea what anyone is saying to him, and best of all, he gets fucking crossfaded. There's an extended sequence of Gerard Butler tripping on ecstasy at a party. He and Donnie are drunk, they get into a fight and ride on these gay little scooters, and then bond over a midnight meal at a shawarma place. You know what? Okay, yeah, I'm into this. For what it is, for all it's worth, I was actually having fun just hanging out with the characters, and there's plenty of time just hanging out. The energy between the lead actors and their characters is what made Den of Thieves 2 so enjoyable for me. Plus, the heist at the end was alright. Tension got pretty thick there for a moment. It's decent stuff all around. Oh, and I should mention, once again, Butler says some gay shit. There's a bit where the lady on the crew asks how the two leads met, and O'Shea Jackson Jr. says, "Oh, we met in prison." And Gerard Butler immediately goes, "Nah, we met on a gay cruise." I about lost my shit when he said that. Somewhere buried in these movies is an unrequited gay romantic crime comedy with these two. I swear to God. Call it Den of Gays. This is Den of Gays 2. Pansexuals. Anyway, maybe my expectations were so low that the movie not being terrible was enough to surprise me. Again, it's a January movie and a sequel coming 7 years after the original that nobody was expecting or even really wanted, but I do like it more than the first. Things like this you gotta judge on a curve, and personally I think Den of Thieves 2 does okay for itself, and as far as January movies go, it's gonna serve you better than usual. I had a decent time. I think if you even marginally enjoyed the original, you might like it. And yeah, it's perfectly fine. It's a decent way to kill a couple hours. And that about does it for the first weekend of January 2025. The next weekend is January 17th. That's actually my birthday. And coming out on my birthday is Lee Winnell's Wolfman remake and this comedy with Keke Palmer and SZA. It's called One of Them Days. And it looks pretty funny, and Wolfman looks pretty scary. Not the Wolfman himself, but just the movie looks like it could be a really effective horror film. I liked Lee Winnell's Invisible Man remake a bunch, so this should be pretty good. I hope what we've seen of the Wolfman isn't the final design. Like, there was this Halloween Horror Nights thing a few months back where you saw this guy in a costume representing the Wolfman from the Wolfman movie, and he looked kind of terrible. The costume looked so bad. It just looked like an old guy. Like, that is an old man. That's not a Wolfman. So hopefully the final design for the Wolfman is way better than what that Halloween Horror Nights thing was. Regardless, the movie should be good, and One of Them Days looks funny enough. I'll be checking out both those things. I should have a decent birthday weekend. I will be 27 years old. So yeah, that kind of does it for this video. My voice is kind of giving out right now, so I'm gonna wrap this up. Thank you so much for listening to me ramble about stupid bullshit and my stupid opinions. I plan on committing to posting at least one video a week or every other week through this whole year. It just depends on how things go. Again, thank you for listening. Please subscribe if you want to hear me ramble more, and I will see you next weekend.